Hey everybody, welcome back. It is Wednesday, June 4th, 2025, and Donald Trump is still a convicted felon. Last week was the first anniversary of Donald Trump's conviction on 34 felony counts in a Manhattan courtroom for trying to improperly influence the 2016 election by paying off two women $130,000 apiece, two women that he had had extramarital sexual relations with. And a year ago last week, a Manhattan jury convicted him of 34 felony counts for part of that scheme. So welcome back, everybody. My name is Hawk. This is my channel. If you like this video, please click like, leave a comment. Please subscribe to my page. It is free to do so. And for those of you who do not know me yet, I live in the Bay Area near San Francisco, California. I've been a trial attorney for the last a little over 26 years. And last year I spent a great deal of time covering and making videos about this trial. Donald Trump's 34 felony convictions in a Manhattan courtroom marked the very first time in U.S. history that a former president had been convicted or found guilty of felony crimes. The conviction stemmed from a scheme to falsify business records in order to conceal hush money payments made to adult film actress Stormy Daniels during the 2016 presidential campaign. The jury deliberated for approximately 9.5 hours over 2 days before delivering the unanimous verdict. These convictions still remain on Donald Trump's criminal record. And we all remember watching either live. I watched it live, but there were a lot of viral clips of Ari Melber of MSNBC as he's getting the verdicts, each of the individual verdicts in his ear, and him just sitting there going, guilty, 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 guilty 34 times. Oh, hey, look what I've got here. Oh, what is this? Oh my goodness. It is Supreme Court of the state of New York. This is the jury verdict form. And you can see right here, I'll hold that up. You guys probably won't be able to make it out there. It's 3 pages long. There are 34 counts. And over on the side here, you can select guilty or not guilty. And they picked guilty on every single one. Guilty on every single one. And it's signed and dated by the foreperson. Guilty, guilty, guilty on every single one. I have a copy of this framed, hanging in my kitchen. You know, what are you going to do? But so the indictment in this case, which I have right here, this is a 16-page indictment that was issued by Manhattan District Attorney Allen Bragg. And so when I did a lot of videos about the indictments that were issued by Jack Smith when he was special prosecutor for the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, and when he indicted Trump in D.C. for his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Jack Smith's indictments were like novellas. He wrote speaking indictments that really told a story. This indictment from Allen Bragg is not that. It's a pretty boring indictment to read. It's only 16 pages. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. But that indictment came out on March 30th, 2023. So from indictment to guilty verdict was about 14 months. Unlike the federal cases that involved Donald Trump that had been brought against him by Jack Smith, because in the midst of those, the U.S. Supreme Court had decided to grant him immunity for criminal acts committed while he was president of the United States, as long as they were ostensibly or arguably official acts of the office of president. But the key part to that immunity decision was they took their damn sweet time in doing it. It took them 7 or 8 months from when they accepted it in December December or November of 2023, and they did not issue a decision in that case until July 2024. And by that point, it was too late for either of those trials to go forward. He also had Florida federal judge Aileen Cannon, in the bag. She did absolutely everything in her power to slow walk the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, even though that was the strongest of the 4 criminal cases that was brought against Donald Trump, because it just rested on possession. Just possession of those documents at a place and time when Donald Trump was not entitled to have them. I think he was indicted for either 32 or 38 felony violations of the Espionage Act in that case, and Judge Aileen Cannon made absolutely certain that that case never went to trial. And remember in that case that Donald Trump was also charged with a few counts of obstruction for lying to the DOJ about having those documents. He lied to his own attorneys about having those documents, and he and some of his Confederates actively tried to conceal and destroy evidence of his possession, including security camera footage. But let's get back to this case. During 2023, Donald Trump was indicted in 4 separate jurisdictions, 91 felony counts in total. Some of those felony counts were dismissed in the Atlanta RICO case, in the case that was brought by Fani Willis, before she completely imploded and torpedoed that case by dating the lead prosecutor on that case. And I think that Fani Willis was incredibly courageous to bring that case. The indictment in that case is very, very detailed. It tells a story as well. But I think she showed horrific judgment in, of all cases, to date and have a relationship with the lead prosecutor on doing that on this particular case, I think was an egregious misstep on her part. But so this case involved, so during the 2016 campaign, this is some of the allegations and testimony that came out at trial. Donald Trump and Michael Cohen met with a guy named David Pecker, who was the publisher of the National Enquirer. And the 3 of them formed an agreement in an office at Trump Tower that David Pecker would engage in what's a practice of what's called catch and kill, meaning that he would track down any negative or salacious stories about Donald Trump. He would pay the people who would be telling those stories. He would buy the exclusive rights, pay them a bunch of money, and then he would not publish that story. He would catch the story and then he would spike it. He would kill it and not publish it. He did that relative to a story involving a doorman in a Manhattan building who was making an allegation that Donald Trump had fathered a child out of wedlock. Mr. Pecker did that also relative to a former Playboy model named Karen McDougal. He paid her $100,000, gave her some magazine covers, and allowed her to write some fitness articles so that she would not tell the story of her. It was a 1 year long relationship that she had with Donald Trump. She thought that they were in love. They were having sex with each other. And she was very upset to learn that Donald Trump did not feel the same way, even though he was married to Melania Trump at the time. Then we fast forward to the encounter between Donald Trump and Stormy McDaniels at a golf tournament in South Lake Tahoe. I don't remember what year it was. And she had sex with him. It was questionable as to whether or not that sex was entirely voluntary on her part, although Donald Trump was not charged with anything in that regard. But, you know, she also, she was an adult film actress at the time and wanted to get on The Apprentice and was trying to work that angle a little bit. But I think it became very clear from her testimony and interviews afterwards that she very, very much regretted having sex with Donald Trump, but she never denied that the sex took place. And so where the criminal charges came about, so David Pecker from the National Enquirer, paid off that doorman, paid off Karen McDougal. And then when he got word of the Stormy Daniels situation, he testified at trial that he said to Michael Cohen, he's like, I'm not paying off any more of these women. We're not a bank. He did not testify to it, but my theory is that he spoke with legal counsel for his company and was like, you're doing this with knowledge of and within the environment of a presidential election, and this could be an illegal campaign contribution. You could be violating campaign election laws or campaign finance laws, and so he shut that down pretty quick. And so that left Michael Cohen trying to come up with a way to pay off Stormy Daniels $130,000 in a way that could not be linked to Donald Trump. And so they came up with a scheme along with Allen Weisselberg, who was the CFO of the Trump organization, who was in prison at the time of Trump's Manhattan criminal trial, I think for perjury in one of the E. Jean Carroll cases. It was the second time Allen Weisselberg had gone to prison, and I think he was in his 80s at the time. So he went to prison twice for Donald Trump. And they cooked up a scheme where Michael Cohen would borrow the $130,000 from a home equity line of credit. He would pay that money to Stormy Daniels, and then he would bill Donald Trump for legal services in an amount that totaled, I think, $420,000. It was the original amount. They doubled it so that he could pay the taxes on that amount, Michael Cohen, and then there was a bonus on top of that. And so each of the reimbursement checks that Donald Trump wrote to Michael Cohen for legal fees, it was a whole bunch of checks for $35,000 or $70,000 a piece, and the Manhattan DA had all of these canceled checks that were made out to Michael Cohen and signed by Donald Trump, and so it was this scheme of falsifying business records to funnel this money to Michael Cohen and misclassify it on purpose in Donald Trump's business records, which led to the criminal charges. Now, under New York law, falsifying business records is typically a misdemeanor. It can become a felony if you are falsifying those business records, if it was done in furtherance of another crime, such as a campaign finance violation. And that's written into New York statute. The Trump humpers always like to say, what are the felonies? What are the felonies? These are all misdemeanors. And that's because Trump supporters are incredibly fucking stupid and gullible and dumb and easily manipulated and never read past a headline. They're abject fucking morons. But they are very entertaining at times. They're fun to watch. There's another joke that I love that has that punchline, which we don't tell that joke out loud anymore. So I will not be repeating that. But so Trump went on trial, and the interesting thing about this was the very first time that Donald Trump had ever been held responsible for anything. And he was like 77 years old when this trial started. He'd been breaking the law since he could walk. And this was the very first time that he was being held responsible, that he was facing criminal charges. He was facing felony charges. And remember, he had some civil trials going on around this time. And he used to just show up to court and storm out of the courtroom whenever he wanted in those cases. You don't get to do that in criminal court. He was ordered to be there at counsel table every single day. And that's when he kept falling asleep and farting and shitting his pants. And we started calling him Rip Van Stinkle and Don Von Schitzenpants and Don Snorleone. Those were some of the nicknames that we came up for Fat Nixon, Pervert Hoover, Groper Cleveland, Comb Over Caligula, Mango Mussolini, Old Yam Tits during that trial. And it was the first time that he was in a court proceeding that was completely out of his control. This was a state court proceeding at the county level. It was not a federal court. He could not wrangle the Supreme Court to save him in this particular case. They were state charges. They were not federal charges. If convicted on state charges, he would not be allowed or permitted to pardon himself on these charges if he were to become president again, which our electorate in this country, in their infinite fucking wisdom, right around 6 months after Donald Trump was convicted on these charges, decided to reelect him again, because much like Trump supporters, a majority of our electorate here in the United States are complete fucking morons. They're selfish, they're greedy, they're dumb, they're gullible and easily manipulated. And no small amount of them are also racist, bigoted, misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, and ableist. So that worked out for him. But the first line of this video is still true to this day. Donald Trump is still a convicted felon. Hang on one second. Which reminds me, we have merch in our merch store. Donald Trump is still a convicted felon. And you can get that shirt at hawkmerchstore.com. Hawkmerchstore.com. Thanks everybody for watching this. If you enjoyed this video, again, please click like, share it with your friends, leave a comment. Please subscribe to my page. It is free to do so. And I'll see you guys soon. Everybody stay safe this week.